Okay, give it another minute or two.
I'll be right back.
Okay, we're just about ready to get started.
Dr. Isaac, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Or your silhouette.
My silhouette, yeah, I was just thinking I should turn the lights on. I guess that's what it is. It's not so dark.
Dr. Isaacs, how you doing? Turn the lights on
Good.
there.
How you doing?
East. In the east, turn it on there.
Well, it's almost sundown here.
No, it's still a long Shabbos in the east.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if that's gonna help. Let's see. No, I'm still in the dark. It's just the way it is. I don't know how to make it lighter.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. All right. I think we're ready to get started here. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Very nice to see everybody. Glad everyone could make it. So, I'll of course like to talk about the Parsha and Tisha B'av, the Haftorah of Parshas Chazon, and about our situation in general in Corona, and some shuls have opened. Our shul has not yet. We hope to open soon, God willing. But we find ourselves in a very interesting, unusual situation, and there's a really beautiful and inspiring way that it all kind of ties together. I wanted to start by sharing with you just a brief snippet of a letter I recently saw in a book that I just happened to come across, the letters of the novelist Kurt Vonnegut. He says something very interesting. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see. This is just a letter he was writing to a friend or a colleague. Okay, here you go. So his friend wrote an essay, something about Catholicism or Christianity. So he says something very relevant to shul being closed, or just the idea of shul. He says he's really talking about Christianity. He mentions shuls as well. He says, if you want to fatten your essay some, why not write about the fantastic growth of Christianity in a Roman Empire which was so cruelly opposed to it, right? So the Roman Emperor the empire was the official state religion was pagan, and Christianity was much smaller, but it was gaining some traction, and it succeeded, beyond all expectations in winning over the people in the Roman Empire. Eventually, it became the state religion. But listen to what he says here. What is the secret to their success? The state religion formed crowds of strangers to propitiate gods in enormous buildings or plazas. Christians prayed with cozy little bunches of friends who met regularly in cozy little places, which felt much better. So basically, the churches of the time were similar to shuls. They were just a carbon copy of shuls, probably, in many ways. And he says that the state religion of the paganism of the Romans, it was very impersonal. It was these huge temples, and whatever they did there, it was not personal. There was no sense of community that was built from the pagan worship. However, the Christians, they prayed with these cozy bunches of friends, and they they built a sense of community, which helped the religion spread against all odds. So he says over here, the mottos of both Christian and Jewish congregations of those days might have been this: religion on a human scale. So this is, of course, something that we've felt very acutely. We felt the pain of lacking not only the sense of community, but that's a huge part of what we've been feeling that we've been missing for these past however many months it's been, 4 or 5 months. But everything else the spirituality as well, which our shuls offer us, and the Torah, the learning that they offer us, we've also, of course, felt that lacking in our lives as well. But there's another aspect, I guess, another side of the coin of this picture of this loss of shul and everything that comes with that. There's another side of the coin that does have a certain benefit to it, and that really comes out in a certain way through one line in our parsha, and a line in the Haftorah and the book of Eicha, and a fascinating medrash that connects Tisha B'av to Adam Harishon, to Adam and Eve. And listen to, I'll share with you what the medrash says in a second, but it's all based on the word Eicha. Eicha, of course, means how. It's really the more common form of the word Eicha is Eich. And when the kamatz hey is added on to the end, Eicha, it kind of gives it a more of a poetic sense, a sense of mourning, a sad sense, gloom, woe. And Eicha, of course, is the focal point. How could this happen? Is a focal point. How could all this destruction, calamity, disaster happen to us? The focal point of the book of Eicha. And it shows up time and time again in the keynotes that we say on Tisha B'av. And I hope everyone can join us on Tisha B'av. We're going to have live commentary over Zoom with Rabbi Twersky, myself, and some of our other rabbis, and like we have every year, and we'll God willing, have a kids program as well on Tisha B'av via Zoom. But it also comes up in our parsha. Eicha esa levadi tarchachem umasachem berivachem. Moshe Rabbeinu says about the Jewish people, how can I carry this burden by myself? All the difficulties that the Jewish people put him through in his leadership in the Midbar. And the Haftorah says, Eicha haisa lezona kirya namana. How has she become a harlot, the faithful city? Eicha, Eicha, Eicha. So the rabbis in the Medrash, it's in Yalkut Shimoni. I'm going to actually share it with you. 1 second. There it is. Yalkut Shimoni is one of the later midrashim. It's a collection of all type of rabbinic comments on the Torah and on Tanakh. So the book of Eicha has its own. Oops, hold on. Let me get that back in. The book of Eicha has its own section in Yalkut Shimoni. So it says here, Kol ma she'ira la'adam, ira liYisrael. Everything that happened to Adam HaRishon, to the first man, happened to the Jewish people. Adam HaRishon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hichniso legan Eden. So Adam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God entered him he placed him into the Garden of Paradise, into Gan Eden. Vitzivehu, and he gave him commandments. He wasn't able to eat from the trees. V'avar, and he transgressed the commandments. V'dano b'shiluchin v'gerushin, and he judged him with being expelled from the garden. V'konen alav Eicha, and he mourns about God himself mourns Adam by saying Eicha. Now he didn't actually say Eicha. He said Ayeka. He said, where are you? And the rabbis are pointing out the similarity between the word Eicha, which is the Tisha B'av theme, and the word used for that God says to Adam, Ayeka. They're spelled exactly the same. They just have different vowels. And we'll get back to in a moment how significant this Ayeka, this idea of where are you that God says to Adam, how that connects to the Eicha of Tisha B'av. And we're going to skip the details of the Medrash, but it goes on to say how God did the same thing, or the same thing happened with the Jewish people. So I'm going to highlight this right here. V'chein asli Yisrael, and God did the same thing with the Jewish people. He knisam l'Eretz Yisrael. He placed us not in Gan Eden, but he placed us in a sort of Gan Eden, a sort of paradise, our own land, Eretz Yisrael. Vitzivam, continuing right over here, Vitzivam mitzvahs los haseh v'aseh, or mitzvos los haseh v'aseh. He commanded them negative commandments they weren't allowed to do, positive commandments, v'avru alehem. They transgressed those commandments. V'danan begerushin v'shiluchan, and their judgment was also expulsion. And then it concludes, Vaykonen ba'atzmo alehem eicha, and God himself, he mourned, so to speak, himself. And this line in Eicha, the Medrash is attributing to God himself, Eicha Yashva Badad, how can now the city of Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, sit alone with the people in exile? So what exactly are the rabbis getting at with this similarity, this connection between Adam HaRishon, the first person who lived, and the Jewish people, and the message of the book of Eicha? And Rabbi Norman Lamb, who recently passed away, Zichrono Livracha, who was an amazing darshan. He was a original Jewish thinker and a real leader. He really built Yeshiva University to be the wonderful institution it is today. And he explained something, and this is what I said before. It's really uncanny, the connection to the situation we find ourselves in now. He says what the rabbis are doing here is they're generalizing the concept of Tisha B'av to a universal concept. Tisha B'av is a particularistic idea. It's related just to the Jewish people. We sinned, and the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and we went into Galus, we went into exile. What the rabbis are doing are saying that the shortcomings and the failures that led to Tisha B'av and that are relevant to the Jewish people are really a universal idea. They're relevant to everyone, because Adam HaRishon was not Jewish. He was the first human being. And this is brought out by what the Medrash says is God's lamentation, so to speak, about Adam, when he says to him, Eicha, where are you? Now, what exactly happened at that time? It's one of the peculiar or striking, I would say, parts of the story of the sin of Adam in the Garden of Eden, where he eats from the tree of knowledge. Adam and Chava eat from the tree of knowledge, and the first thing they do is they hide. And they're now supposed to, they just ate from the Eitz Hadas, and now they ate from the tree of knowledge. They are supposed to be more sophisticated now. But instead, they have this notion that they can somehow conceal themselves from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're able to hide from God, and they hide in the trees of the garden. And God says to him, Eicha, where are you? And for some reason, Adam is not able to grasp that there's no hiding from God. You can't set up a space that God is not able to see. You can't say that, God is only over there and I'm over here, and he has nothing. I only have a relationship with him. I only have a kesher with him, a connection with him when I'm in that space. But in this space, he can't see me, and I don't have to think about him here. So that is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Eicha, where are you? And meaning, do you think that you can somehow hide from me, that there's some area of Gan Eden, there's some area of the Garden of Eden, there's some area of the universe where I can't see you, where you can hide yourself from me, that you can kind of wall off and limit my access to? That's ridiculous. And what Rabbi Dr. Lamb suggests is that is really at the root of the what happened with the destruction, the Chorban of the Beis HaMikdash. Yeah, there are particular averos, there are particular sins that the Gemara, that Chazal, the rabbis say, or the destruction is attributed to, that because they did X, Y, and Z, the Beis HaMikdash had to be destroyed and they had to be exiled. But really, what it comes down to is that they had a sense that they came to worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the temple, in the Beis HaMikdash, and that's where he was. But outside the Beis HaMikdash was a different story. And they were not worried about not properly paying their workers or exploiting people. They were not worried about sinas chinam, about hating one another, with machlokus and conflict within the Jewish people. Because as long as they were outside of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's domain, as long as they were outside of God's space, they didn't have to worry about it. and this is what led HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. This is what led God himself to say, when they did come to the Beis Hamikdash and they did offer korbanos and they brought sacrifices, he said, "Mi bikesh zos miyedechem." Who asked for this from you? Meaning, who asked for your korbanos? Remos chatzerai, trampling my courtyards. Meaning, if you're not able to act with faithfulness to morality and to the laws of the Torah when you're outside the Beis Hamikdash, then whatever you do when you come in here doesn't matter anyway. And it's only Remos chatzerai. It's really it's just disrespecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's just disrespecting God himself. And this is in a sense the message of the day, in that we are separated from our shuls. And even, God willing, our shul hopefully will open very soon, but it's going to be limited. Not everyone's going to be able to come. For at least the time being, the center of Jewish life has shifted from the shul, from the synagogue, to the home. And in many ways, that is a good thing. I want to share with you something that I, in a Devar Torah that I wrote a couple of months ago already. Maybe it was even 3 months ago already. I quoted a stunning passage from Rav Hirsch. It's actually quoted by, I believe, Dr. Grunfeld. Let me bring that up. And he talks about what in his time was a very big problem that, let me just find out where I put it. Okay, I think I have to just reopen it. I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so he was dealing with the rise of reform. Now we kind of live in an age of the decline of reform, but he lived in an age of the ascent of reform. And one of the main things that reform was saying was that we should be Jews in shul, in the synagogue, and when we're in public or when we're at home, we should be like everyone else. And this is really described in the first part of this piece. And what Rav Hirsch wrote to kind of counteract this idea is this part that's highlighted in the green. And these really remarkable words, and they have a certain prophetic sense to them. Not that he was predicting what's happening to us now, but just listen to what he says. If I had the power, I would provisionally close all synagogues for 100 years. He would close them. He would close shuls for 100 years. Do not tremble at the thought of it, Jewish hearts. What would happen? Jews and Jewesses without synagogues, desiring to remain such, meaning desiring to remain Jews and Jewesses, would be forced to concentrate on a Jewish life and a Jewish home. Meaning there's a certain there's a dimension of I guess a negative aspect of focusing on shul too much. What would we have to do if we didn't have shul? We'd be forced to concentrate on Jewish life. We'd have no choice to maintain our Jewish identity, but to infuse the rest of our lives and our homes with more Yiddishkeit, with more Judaism, with more Torah. The Jewish officials connected with the synagogue, this would include rabbis, but not limited to rabbis, would have to look to the only opportunity now open to them to teach young and old how to live a Jewish life and how to build a Jewish home. All synagogues closed by Jewish hands would constitute the strongest protest against the abandonment of the Torah in home and life. And this the rest of this paragraph is just Dr. Grunfeld. He says this dramatic passage throws into relief the wrong notion that synagogues in themselves are sufficient to perpetuate Judaism. But it's not only 18th century reform that makes this mistake to put too many of our eggs in one basket. It's really all of us in a certain sense have to, like Adam Harishon and like the Jews at the time of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, we all have a tendency that when do we act as Jews? When we're saying a bracha, when we have a sefer, a Torah book open in front of us, and most significantly when we're in shul, when we're davening, and those are all crucially important, and we should do more learning and more davening, and God willing, we'll come back to shul soon. But to be Jewish is so much. There's so much more to it. It's something that should permeate every moment of our lives, not only at home, but every part of our being. We should feel connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should see Him and experience Him. When the sun rises, we say Yotzer Or. I've just been learning with Shlomi and David the last few weeks. Or Soloveitchik, he writes about his emotional experience of Yiddishkeit. He writes about how important it is to be thinking about and connected to the Almighty at all times. And when the sun sets, the sun rises, when we feel the wind, when we feel the heat of the sun, in Phoenix, we should think about all of the kindness He does for us, and what an amazing universe He has built for us, and not get caught up in the focus on our institutional Jewish life and our the part of our life, our Judaism that's in shul. We should broaden it, and again, this is something that is not, as Rabbi Lamb says, this is not just a particular message for Jews and a particular message of Tisha B'av. It's really, this was something that Adam Harishon, a challenge that he faced, and it's really a challenge that humanity faces. That kind of in the past few hundred years, humanity has pushed God into a smaller and smaller corner, and the more confidence we have with our technological and scientific advancements has just accelerated that process of limiting or eliminating God's the significance of God in our lives, and it's really to our personal and national peril, and we should all remember the message of Eicha, that the tragedies and the problems that we face as Jews and as human beings are really a result of the Eicha of as God said to Adam, that there's, how can you think you can hide from me? And this is there's no better time when our regular shul life is not how we'd like it to be, to take the opportunity to expand the role of Judaism, of Yiddishkeit and Torah, and our connection and relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as we approach Tisha B'av in the 9 days, to really the whole year see how we can expand that. And everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos, and hopefully we won't have to observe Tisha B'av this year. Mashiach should come, but if not, everyone should have a very meaningful Tisha B'av, and I hope to see everybody next week for our Tisha B'av program, God willing, and I hope everyone is well, and And let us know if you need anything or if you want to schmooze. And have a great Shabbos in the meantime.
Good Shabbos, Shakoach.
Shabbos, thank you.
Rabbi,
Everyone.
just like it's shul, Rabbi, you got somebody listening who fell asleep.
Okay, Shakoach.
Wasn't me. Thank
All
you,
right.
Rabbi.
See everyone.
Thank you.
Be well.
Be well. Be safe. Be well.
Thank
Beautiful.
you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Right.
Okay.